state-sponsored espionage, and cybercrime. So now we are monitoring more than 100 of highly sophisticated projects which generate a lot of the new malicious code. And about 10% of that, that's a cybercrime, 90% that's a state-sponsored espionage. It's very hard to point the fingers for some particular nations because its attribution in cyberspace is very, very, very tricky. For example, I add some specific to Rwanda words into the malicious code, and I use the proxy server in Kigali, and this attribution will come here. But it's not true, so it's possible to falsificate the fingerprints in the malware, so it's very hard to prove. But if they do it month by month, year by year, they make mistakes, so we can recognize who they are. So in espionage, the most spoken languages are native English, and they operate Atlantic zone, Atlantic type zone. Native Russian, they operate Eastern European zone, and they not so active during the Russian Federation holidays. And simplified Chinese, and they typically don't work during the Chinese Golden Week. And many other languages and locations. Spanish, Latin American, and Spanish. We have people who can recognize the differences. French, German, Korean, Arabic, many others. So unfortunately in espionage, there are many states are very, very active. We know it very well. And some of them, the rest, the 10% of this highly complicated espionage, highly complicated malicious tools, they are criminals. So all they speak native Russian. As I said, the most professional cyber criminals, they are Russian speaking. I didn't say citizens of Russia. They could be citizens of Russia, of Ukraine, Baltic countries, Kazakhstan, Europe, Seattle, New York, California. So they are in many, many other countries. Well, actually, and this is a problem because the junior criminals, they grow and they join the forces of the highly professional criminals. And if to protect from their first category cyber attacks, there's a junior attacks, you just click the link, you download the application, you install it, and forget about it. To protect from this category, it's more complicated. So I will be short, so you can learn more about this on there by clicking this URL. So the traditional antivirus, traditional cybersecurity is just one, it's a prevention. That's a traditional technologies. To protect from highly complicated attacks, you need also the detection solutions to detect that you are under attack. So the traditional cybersecurity, they stop the attack. The detection means that they hacked you. They are in, but we detect that there is a problem. You have a problem. Then you have to learn from that, investigate the case, and be ready for the future threats. So that's like a life cycle. And please learn more. If you want to learn more, click this link. It's safe, I guarantee. Okay, so, and the third category is Iran, nuclear facilities, they won the attack. Then there was attack on Saudi Aramco, Saudi Arabia oil company. Then there were reports about attack on a German steel mill, and steel mill was destroyed. Then there were blackouts in Ukraine. There were attempts to attack Middle East oil companies with no success. Fortunately, they made the mistakes. Then there were still we don't know what happened in Venezuela. That's quite closed country, we don't know. But then there was a report about blackout in Venezuela. My first question was, is there any smoke and fire? No. Could be cyber? Who knows? I don't know. But technically it's possible. So, unfortunately, all the industrial systems, they are vulnerable. So we saw many of them. Unfortunately, it's possible to hack and change the behavior or even destroy this system, the physical facilities. So, to protect from this kind of attacks, Actually, unfortunately, it's even more complicated. So you can go to this URL to learn more. So we need to adapt our technologies, which we use to protect their office networks. We adapt them to the industrial needs. And there are different logics. So in the office network, the priority number one is security. In industrial environment, the main priority is do not interrupt industrial processes, technological processes. That's a key difference. So we need to adapt our technologies and products for the industrial needs. We need help. Actually, we have the IT guys to protect the traditional office networks, to protect industrial systems. We need partners. We need engineers because we don't have enough of resources. There is no company in the world which have enough of resources. There is no nation in the world to have enough of resources to protect their own infrastructure, especially critical infrastructure. So once I was speaking about that yesterday, day before yesterday. Investment into the IT security, education, trainings, universities. It's a very right thing to have your critical infrastructure protected in the right way. So, but it's not enough. When I speak about infrastructure, there is a key problem. When we protect individuals or businesses, we can estimate the damage. The damage is your wallet or your information, your customer data. Security as a risk management is not the complete solution. So in case of the critical infrastructure, I want to switch to the definition of immunity. Immunity means that we reach attack costs more than possible damage. So if you have a $1 million turbine at power plant, to attack the turbine, it must cost more than 1 million. To my guys, I said such a definition. So we have to reach such a level of security than to destroy the power plant. It's less expensive to send a cruise missile. Not just a price for the cruise missile, but all the attribution and political disaster after that. So we have to reach such a level of security, then attackers, they don't touch cyber. I'm working in a cyber company, so I don't protect from the cruise missiles. It's not my job. But in cyber, we reach such a level. So we are working on the immunity system. It's a special operating system, specially designed operating system, which is not Linux, it's not embedded Windows, it's completely different operating system which is written from the scratch. It's not for desktops. It's made for the IoT and industrial sector. It's based on the microkernel architecture, which is really unique. There is some unique Unix clones. They use this architecture. What is unique? We have a security layer. So all the parts, all the pieces of the system, they can't speak to each other. They speak only to each other only through the security layer, which checks their permissions. So every module has a permission. In short, if you're a calculator, you don't have access to the internet. And don't ask. If you're a turbine, you're a prison in for applications. Even the bad applications, they can't escape the cave. They escape the cell. So, we have it for network routers, we have it for security cameras, we are working with automotive sector, and we're working with the chip makers. The chip here on the picture is not just a random picture. So we're working with the chip makers which do assemble the chips from the components.
Is trying to do a lot of things to secure our world. From a policy point of view, and by the way, Cote d'Ivoire is leading cybersecurity flagship within the Smart Africa Secretariat. So from a policy point of view, what are you doing? How are you preparing the country, Cote d'Ivoire, and what can other African countries learn from you so that we're able to take good advantage of the products that companies like Kaspersky are putting on the market?
Yeah, thank you very much. So in Cote d'Ivoire, we're actually putting a lot of policies in places. I think for government, one of the first things to do is actually to put the right policies in places. And that's actually is something that was recommended in the Malabo Convention that was actually initiated by the African Union. But in order for us to actually have the right policies and strategies, we actually need to know our threat map. We need to know our threat environment. And this is actually where we can actually use the expertise of companies like Kaspersky or Jiggy and things like that, which we actually already working with. So understanding the threat environment and knowing the difference, our strength, our weaknesses on a national level, in order to actually implement the right policies. So strategies are very specific. So we actually working with all the different stakeholders to actually put the right strategies in place. We actually have a very good plan in place right now, and that's basically the starting point. It's really to really know your environment, really know your weaknesses, and then starting to implement the right strategies to actually.
What policies are you putting up, specifically in the education sector, to prepare the young generation to start taking into consideration cybersecurity?
That's a good point. We actually have a plan to actually review the whole educational program, to actually starting at the primary level, basic cyber hygiene. Basic cyber hygiene skills to even kids and moving up. So we need to actually review our whole education program, because the world we're living in, we cannot pretend it's a safe world as far as cybersecurity is concerned. So from the young age, people should be already aware of what to do and what not to do. So basically, educational programs should be totally reviewed and having that aspect actually introduced to it.
Very good. Now, Alex, you come from ITU, you work on standards, and you've done quite an amazing job in terms of cybersecurity standards. How do we marry the policy perspective, the private sector, but ensure that they are all working on firm and strong and interoperable standards across the entire ecosystem?
Okay. Yesterday we were in this same room and we talked about interoperability. And, I was thinking about the session today. I told myself, okay, before the challenge were, for you to protect your system. But now when you want to create a common market, you want to create a continental platform where people and goods are moving around, systems have to exchange information with other systems. So it is not just about the security of your system, it's also about the security of the information that you are exchanging. And one of the things which I believe needs to be looked at seriously, we cannot rely on people implementing processes and procedures. And I think Eugene talked about something here which is fundamental, because let the technology make it difficult or impossible for certain things to happen. We have to look at standards that would enable that we build architectures which they don't assume that you trust the administrator. They don't assume that you trust the people who are going to access the system. So I think the language that needs to be used also needs to be a common language. We do a lot in definitions. People need to understand the different elements which should be known by the technical people, by the regulators, by the policymakers. The language needs to be common, because standards enable you to make systems and processes interoperate. But how you communicate what you are doing is important for the other stakeholders who are part of the overall system of protection to also know what you're saying.
Alex, I hear you talk about two things. One, there is the fundamental infrastructure, but you also bring in another element that I would like to term infrastructure. There's the infra part, the physical element, but then there's the data information structure that we have to put it in place. So how do we marry that? How do we ensure that these two go hand in hand?
Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to consider data as the main reason why computers exist, why computers connect to each other, why computers connect to networks. It's because of the data, it's because of the information. And we need to look at how we manage information within a context where the management layer for information is not around the application, but it is on the piece of information. We need to look at advanced information management strategies. Things that would enable, if we take the context of Africa, where there are plans to break down the barriers, there are plans to give people the freedom to move around. These people move around, but the information has to go also with them. And how do you make sure that the policies and the security practices that should be around this piece of information go with the people as they move around?
Yeah, thank you. We'll come back to a point there that I want to talk about where we share information. I moved to Kenya or South Africa for medical services, and you're able to use the systems that are in Rwanda. I will come back to that. But I want to ask Sandra, from a World Bank's point of view in terms of a development partnership and trying to support the African economies. Mr. Kafana talked about the education system that we have to disrupt. Mr. Eugene showed us what we need to invest in. For example, getting the IoT immunity is not something cheap. It's going to cost us quite a fortune. Alex is talking about the standards that we have to have, being able to share information, understand the language. From the World Bank's point of view, what do you have to offer? What are you putting on the table?
Probably one of the first multilateral organizations that engage in the space. And because our investments are very high in information technology. We do invest a lot in backbones, connectivity, data centers, cloud, digital government. And we came to realization that it cannot be really done without cybersecurity. And it is our responsibility to inform our clients of the risks that they're engaging in by adopting those technologies. So I've started by a work program that 7 years ago was quite limited. Today it's a major stream of work that we offer and the stream of products. We try to embed cybersecurity in all of our lending activities with digital in digital space. Of course, given understanding the clients are interested in the same, because all of our products are driven by client demand and client interest that's shaped by our clients. Right now we have a program for Africa that is basically working to assess maturity levels. We have assessed maturity levels for 3 countries, and right now starting a major work in ECOWAS. So basically we will be implementing cybersecurity maturity assessments for all ECOWAS countries. The follow-on activities will be working with the national strategies and then embedding cybersecurity in the national programs and the lending that we have with specific countries. And right now we also it was very, very relevant what Mr. Kaspersky mentioned about critical infrastructure, because cyber was viewed as part of technology, part of IT, not OT. And right now we very much see the shift into the operational technologies, industrial technology space, and we also will be focusing on industrial technologies, specifically in transport sector, energy, healthcare, financial sector, and connectivity. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. Amil, you are the Managing Director for Middle East and Turkey. You're on also Africa, and you deal with a number of nations. So what can we learn from that part of the world? And there's a problem here that I perceive. There's an element of competition between where we feel that information has to be protected, yet we need to share. So from your ability to deal with all these nations and different partners, how do we address that challenge?
Very good. Sharing of information is extremely important in cybersecurity. And what I have seen recently, that there is a lot of organization, for example, like they have gathered in order to launch a threat intelligence platform. That could be a very good idea in Africa, for example, where you can launch a platform for all the intelligence. This platform will take all the attacks that's happening globally and the attacks that's happening on the regional level and on the country level. And a lot of people then can benefit from this because you can download IOCs, you can download the other rules, and you can make your security product more efficient in protecting from the new attacks. So now this is for sharing information, but we also believe that you need to protect your data, okay? So our advice, for example, cloud is everywhere, okay? And cloud is important and cloud is the future, okay? But we advise for every country to create their own cloud. Why? Because your data is going to be abide to the local laws. If you have a cloud, for example, anywhere in the world, your data is abide to this international law or this country law. Okay, so it's not your data anymore. Okay, so this is what we advise. And even on security, for example, when you have a security product and they are talking with the cloud, and talking with the cloud is extremely important because this is how you can get extreme protection. But we also advise to create your own security cloud where the exchange of data is happening in your country. So this is like sharing of information and protecting your data.
Let me come back to Mr. Kaspersky. What are the practical steps that we can go through to build that national clouds, and how do we link them to the global clouds? Because I believe we are as secure as the weakest link. Yeah. So how do we ensure that? And how do we leverage the availability and the presence and the willingness of organizations like World Bank to support and finance some of these initiatives to be able to achieve that?
Yes, so if you don't know what's our cloud technologies and private cloud or national cloud, we monitor our sensors, and if we see the new malicious code somewhere, it's immediately reported to the cloud. That's why our systems, they work so fast. But of course, we keep in mind, so there is data which you can send to the cloud, and it's not important. There is a data which is really critically important. So we provide such a service to enterprises and on national level that you have your private cloud, which is connected to the global cloud, but you don't send any data to the global, but receive all the data from the global. So you have your own local umbrella to protect your systems, and at the same time you see what's going on in your organization or in your nation. And to build such a system, well, it's not too hard. It's just a decision to make, and then just to implement it. We have the technologies, we have the experience how to do that. We do it everywhere around the world. And it works very well. What could be the good addition to this system? Local IT security engineers, better experts, which will monitor what's intercepted by the system, what got to the, which fishes got to the net, and to analyze them and to see if there's malicious code to add it to the database. If it's like a data which you don't want to share, just delete it. So I have also one comment about the you mentioned that it's immunity system. It's more complicated to design. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for the comment about critical infrastructure. Yes, it's not just me. When I was speaking about critical infrastructure, I mentioned just the physical systems. Of course, it's not. So the critical infrastructure, I will split it into different categories. The most important is a power plant's power grid. If it doesn't work, the rest doesn't work. Until you have some diesel in your generators, then it's over. That's the end of the world. So it's the most critical. The next layer, it's transportation, telecommunications, financial services, healthcare. If it doesn't work, the rest doesn't work. But power plants still work. So we can, for different nations, there could be different definitions of the critical infrastructure, and some nations already, they have the regulation, they made the definition of critical infrastructure. For example, I've been in Germany recently, so they have a critical infrastructure by German laws is the systems which are used by more than 500,000 people. So if it's less than 500,000 people use the service, it's not critical infrastructure. It's more than half, that's critical infrastructure. That's power plants, power grid, transportation, healthcare, and all that in the list. So to develop there, sorry for being long, but you mentioned that it's more complicated to develop the immunity systems. Not really. So the engineers which develop the software for immunity system, they use the same tools, the same programming languages, the same compilers, the same environment. The difference is that they have to keep in mind that they can't communicate to other applications. They have to only the very strict APIs, to language, to communicate to other models. So it's like a strict regulation for software engineering. That's it. But it's more or less it's the same. If you use Windows API, the programming standards, so this is just a different standard. So that's it. The problem is that existing systems, to make them immune, you have to redesign all the code. So my advice is, existing systems, protect them with security. The new systems, which you just plan to design and to implement, build it on the immunity. And most of African countries, you have an opportunity to build your infrastructure based on immunity systems. In developed world, it's a little bit late. It's done. So that's, the analogy is like, where are the best airports in the world? Middle East, Asian countries. Who was the first to build airports? United States and Europe. So the others, they learned by mistakes of others and they made it better. First Singapore, then the others, they copied this. So I think that African countries, they have a unique option to build the immune, cyber immune world, cyber immune infrastructure.
Thank you, Eugen. My message here is combining what Eugene is talking about and what Andrew talked about, Alex talked about is, one, trust no one, and security by design. Now, at this moment, I want to bring in Mark Coulibaly. From your point of view and managing this Africa Cyber Conference, how do we take what Eugene is talking about, leverage the availability of funds and the investment that Sandra mentioned that World Bank is pouring into this? How can we take that further to be able to achieve the cyber world that we want to achieve?
Hello. Thank you for the question. First of all, let me congratulate Mr. Eugene Kapersky, because what he said, he had to be designed in the system. Basically, there is no other way. If you don't design the system, then you are on the defensive. And you can build all the fortresses around your system. But history teaches us that all fortresses have been penetrated. All. If you go back to 300 before BC, Shangzu's time, anytime, fortresses have been penetrated. So, your security system needs to be in depth. You need to have layers. One will fall, the other one may come. What he's saying in the new design that he's provided, with the isolation of the chip, these are new systems. If you look at last week news, was that the Cisco thrust anchor got breached. Now it's been around for 15 years. He got breached. Very complicated breach, but he got breached. The thrust anchors are built into 30 million devices installed in the world. So now, how do we replace them? There's the World Bank has money for all this. It is complicated in security. My point is, coming back to him again, we have an opportunity to build certain things by design and not just take whatever exists already and build fortresses around them.
Yeah.
You comment is absolutely right. It's about traditional operating systems. In our case, it's different. So first of all, we have a microkernel. The risk of vulnerabilities, the breaches in the wall, is much, much less. And we assemble, if we don't have like the complete system, we have it's like a Lego constructor. So we build, if you're video camera, you don't need keyboard, so the keyboard support doesn't present there. So we assemble it for exactly the needs you and at the same time. If you find vulnerability in calculator, you can't access turbine.
I agree.
So the risk of attack is not zero. It's not zero, but it's very, very low. So to compare the fortress, to take the fortress, yes, it's possible to take any fortress. How much does it cost?
That's right. Now, state actors do have a lot of money. State actors do have a lot of money. My point, let me finish a little bit. My point is, product can be very secure, but that does not mean your system is secure. No hacker really cares about your product or anybody's product. I'm looking for the bank account, the money. I'm looking for some information. So if the product is secure, and I find a way to get in, basically my point is cybersecurity. I think the worst thing we did is add the word cyber in front. It should be just security. Security, security. The thief, the attacker, there's three actors. There's the attacker, there's the defender, and there's innovation. Everybody race to the innovation. The thief get there first, he's ahead of you. You have to race to that innovation. But it's a constant fight between the two. It's a constant fight. We have millions of people now who have incentive to hack. As you had said, somebody could be a hacker in Russia, but initiate from Kigali. It's very difficult to find them. It's extremely difficult. You can. But they are roaming around the world. Therefore, our security system, not cyber security, our security system need to be in depth. It need to be compartmentalized. If you go back to many manuals around the world, Shenzhou, China, 500 before BC, take the high road. If the first barrier gets penetrated, you need to have a rear barrier. You need to have something else to fall upon. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you, Coulibaly. Now, I'm cognizant of time, but I'm also cognizant of your interest and some of the questions that you might have. So I want to open the floor, but before, as we get questions, I want to come back to Sandra. Coulibaly is raising a good point. Do all these nations have the money to be able to invest in this? And number two, there are good innovators out there who don't have the capital, but there are stringent processes to go through to be able to get these loans and everything and ability to finance their projects. What does the World Bank, how can the World Bank help facilitate that process so that we get the good engineers that Eugene is talking about that we need to have? We combine it with the innovators who are out there who have good products so that we're able to achieve this. And I hope the ushers are around to be able to help us to get the questions. Sandra.
Great, thank you. Well, when discussion comes to money, it's usually coming my way.
Of course, you have the wallet.
And I will say something maybe controversial, something unexpected. Yes. Money is not an issue.
So you have it. Money is not a problem.
Have you probably, everybody has that stereotype of a millionaire who is always in debt. And you wonder, why is the millionaire always in debt? Because the millionaire moves the money. They make money, they spend money. What we often see, that the money is there, but it is not moving. And it is not moving where it needs to be because of capacity, of understanding what products are needed, where are they needed, how they should be spent, drafting very complicated specs for the procurement for these products, understanding where they should be embedded, who should be managing them. That's where we see things stopping. And another big constraint, basically there is plenty of investment money. And World Bank is only one player. There is many other regional banks, there are many other partners. The investment money is there. What is not there is a mechanisms and capacity to invest it in the products that are needed and understanding how to evaluate those products. And also the big gap is developing business models that makes this money sustainable, basically operational cost of cybersecurity that's often being overlooked. So what we are doing now, we are basically working with the multiple partners that are engaged in Africa on cybersecurity on building that capacity of how to spend the money and how to invest in the right operations and how to understand what needs to be protected, because cybersecurity is costly. If one starts throwing money on defending something that's not critical to them and there is no cost-benefit ratio, that's waste of money. That's not really a good appropriation of that. So what we do now, we've set up working groups through Global Forum for Cyber Expertise, and we are a member of that forum. We had 2 Africa meetings already, regional meetings, bringing all of the partners, donors, implementers together, private sector, academia, of thinking through the business models, how to operationalize and embed cybersecurity investments in the region, and how to achieve also economy of scale, but doing it regionally and not necessarily on a national scale, because some investments in cyber ranges and training centers, in shared thirds that can share information on a regional level or among the countries that choose to collaborate, would save lots of money for the countries. We actually have a session at 1:30 in AD7, so anybody who wants to participate in the roundtable around that discussion, we'll continue this in the technical session. So a little bit advertising of the next session. So.
Thank you, Sandra, for that. And yes, you have it around 1:30. Let's go there and listen. Now, I want to open the floor for questions. Yes, so the ushers will help us. And let's have 3 questions and then come back to another round of 3 so that we make it a bit efficient. Yes.
Здравствуйте, Жень. Это чтобы сказать, что можно быть из Мали и не быть из России и быть хакером. Но я не хакер. It was just to say that I am from Mali. I could be a hacker, but I am not Russian. It is what he said from the beginning. So my question is about we are trying to build our system, but we are not so rich. But the security is a necessity for many people or for everything. How could you advise us how to do to secure our system, being not so rich to buy a solution from people like you? Thank you.
There was a hand on the second row, and then we go to the gentleman on the second last row.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Yame Kayumba. I'm from here in Rwanda. So it's a great honor to have you here, Mr. Kaspersky. So we used to buy your antivirus, but sometimes I thought it's just a name of company, but at the end I found that it's the founder of the company. So my first question is this: what was the inspiration behind when you start this company, so that you can inspire our software engineer here in Rwanda, so that maybe in 5 years we can have our own Kaspersky here in Rwanda? And what was the journey, the process? You can really, I know you are in business, but you can at least give us some of your secret. So my second question, what is the security you give to your client? Because, you know, such kind of companies, it's used in espionage. Even I read in newspaper that in the past, some of in US, they didn't want to use your product because they fear that maybe Russia can spy them through the protection. So what is the insurance can you give us that Kaspersky is not using our data in espionage? Yes, thank you.
Thank you. The gentleman.
Thank you. My name is Michael Shaka Nyaraya. I'm a Deputy Managing Director of Pan-African Logistics. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much. The panel is really very good because I got to be interested on my field. So we deal with logistics, end-to-end logistics. As Transform Africa, our country really try to say that movement of people, sorting out the issue of movement of people, visa arrival and everything. But also to transform Africa in logistics sector, we need our goods also to be on the safe side. I need your advice because we are building the system of MIC. And of course we need to track the containers, maybe the air freight, the sea freight, the inland, our warehousing, everything including the logistics, because we cannot do anything without the logistics. So we have got opportunity to have you on the panel. We need your advice. How can we build this system so that the Africa, we have different companies and offices in different countries, but we are trying to be in 54 countries in Africa. But everything we need to build it in the system. So kindly, I would love to hear from you for your experience and the advice so that we can work on this. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Mr.
So as far as I remember, the first question was about the what to do if you don't have enough of money. Well, actually, in this case, we have we have a free option, so you can download our free product. Well, it doesn't guarantee protection from the espionage tools. It does guarantee protection for industrial systems. But, well, if you have no money, it's not industrial system. No, yeah, we have free solutions. Yes, please just Google that. So that yeah, we understand it. So we have the products which are scalable. We have the free options there. But when it comes to the industrial security, we have engineers to be allocated to the process, and engineers, they have to be paid. So it's not possible to do this. But, well, I don't know how many million people use our free products around the world. Yes, there are. But when
And
we need to invest.
and the other question was the inspiration to start and the journey.
That was a funny story. I was a software engineer, and my computer was infected in 1989, 30 years ago. So my computer was infected, and I heard about computer viruses that time, and I was just curious, what's that? So I disassembled the machine code, I understood the algorithms, the logic of computer virus, and I explained that to my colleagues, and that's it. And a few weeks after that, a colleague of mine came to me and said, hey, Eugene, you explained us about computer virus, I have a second one. So I got a second one, and the logic of computer virus was different. So there were different algorithms, different ideas in there. So I started to collect computer viruses. So that was my hobby. And I got in love with computer viruses, with cybersecurity. That's a true story. It was my hobby. And then I realized, actually, I'm doing the tool to analyze the viruses, to collect them. And this tool is quite good. So I tried to make some money on that. This tool failed. The first time. But I was just working there. And then it became my life. And I did it better and better and better. And then I managed to get some people to join me. We had a very, very short money, so we didn't have no money. And in Russia, it was in the 90s. That period of time in Russia, investment into the IT startups didn't exist. You die or you win. I'm here. So later we were just focused on technologies. Well, I would like it that we have a very good engineers in Russia. So there were 3 of us, then 4 of us, then 5 of us, then 6, 7. Now it's about 4,000. So step by step we were developing our technologies, products, and developing the business. We got abroad, and step by step there were no revolutions. Actually that started from the hobby. And well, the secret of the success, I think in my case, I don't know if you can implement it to yourself and to your business. The secret of my success is you do the things which is your life. You are in, 100% in. You just live there. You don't work when you sleep. But even when you sleep, you think. Second, you have to find right people. You have to be the leader to make people to follow you and to believe in what you're doing. Because when you have no money, it's very hard to prove that you're doing right things, especially if nobody else does that. So it's about immunity, basically. We're unique. No one else develops such architecture, such operating systems. I believe that this is the right way, and my team also believes this is the right ideas. So second, you have to manage the team. Third, you have to work very, very hard for a long time. So I was working with almost no weekends, no holidays since from 92 till 98 for 6 years. Sometimes I did see my kids because when I waking up, I go to the office, kids are still sleeping. When I came back from the office, kids are already sleeping. Work hard, and the last ingredient of this cocktail is a good luck. Yes?
All right, thank you. And there was another question about the espionage.
Very simple. Very simple. We fight with espionage. So we do a different job. And if you have any question, we have a transparency center in Zurich, so you're welcome to see our source code, our technologies. And actually, by request, we gave access to our source code and technologies and internal procedures for respected governments, respected enterprise. So we don't have so our doors are open. Welcome. Even to be more transparent, we open at the Transparency Center in Zurich. Now we are opening the Transparency Center in Madrid, and if we need it, we'll open it in here if there are requests. So if you don't want it here, welcome to Moscow in January.
When it is very cold. There were a couple other hands. There's a lady in the second row, and I think when I move to this side as well, then see Patrick and the gentleman on the back row.
Good morning. My name is Doreen. I'm a lawyer with Horace, so in case I ask questions that don't sound very technical, just bear. I'm not an IT person by training. Thank you so much, Mr. Eugene, for the presentation. I found it awesome. But while you spoke, I was wondering, is this immunity thing really viable? Because for the time I've known about IT, I mean, like, for as long as I've known about IT, it's the fastest growing industry in the world. There are new solutions, like when you think now we have arrived.
Can I ask that we make the questions precise and succinct to the point,
Okay, yeah.
in the interest of time? Thank
okay,
you.
so with that, have we arrived with that solution? Two, what policy do you have at Kaspersky to make sure that you keep your employees, because when they leave, they could turn into the hackers that you will forever have to fight. Three, what is the best way around cybersecurity for us as Africa and maybe as a continent? Because in my opinion, it looks like it's actually driven by the cyber criminals. Is the best way to train cyber criminals with such a mindset, because as if the market is run by them, because they're trying to find solutions? Thank you.
Thank you. Patrick, and then we go to the gentleman at the back.
Thank you, Innocent. My name is Patrick Atigawundo, and I'm local, I'm Rwandan. My question goes to Ms. Sandra Surgeon. It's a bit related to some numbers of studies that happened last year, whereby about the second or third highest security vector or security threat was due to uninformed, or rather employees or people in the society who don't know about the real threat of cybersecurity. Then my question is, the World Bank have been putting more emphasis as a critical infrastructure development. But I'm not saying we tend to forget, but it doesn't sound that we're putting enough effort into educating people who are going to inherit those infrastructure and the application of them. Is it time to now think of investing into people, knowing that there is a big threat out there, and now that the threat is keep on growing? Instead of making it like a subcomponent of those infrastructure development, being as a program which require a lot of investment into country program or into other that require development. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. The gentleman at the back.
Merci beaucoup. Moi, je vais parler en français. Je suis Martin Kendrebeogo de l'Agence nationale de sécurité des systèmes d'information du Burkina Faso. Félicitations aux panélistes pour la richesse des débats. Ma question, c'est à l'endroit de Kaspersky. Sauf si je me trompe, à quelques fois, on voit souvent Kaspersky Afrique de l'Ouest. Qu'est-ce que cela veut dire, Kaspersky Afrique de l'Ouest? Est-ce que y a-t-il une différence avec Kaspersky Russie, Kaspersky Europe? Quelle est l'idée qui se cache derrière? Quelles sont les spécificités qui sont incluses dedans? Merci beaucoup.
Okay, if I got the question, first he thanked the panel, and then he asked, he's from Côte d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, sorry. And then his question was that we see Kaspersky West, and then Kaspersky South, Kaspersky Europe. What's the difference between all these Kasperskys, and what is hidden behind? Is there anything hidden behind, or is it one? So that was his question. So I think let's go to. So I think the answer is clear. It's the same. I believe it's just from offices that are located in different geographical regions. Sandra, do you want to take on the question from?
I cannot agree more with what was said about educational system. And I want to bring it once again. We remember personal examples. That's what we usually walk out with. There's one interesting coincidence on this panel. And sometimes you look in coincidence and you ask, is it coincidence or not? Is it a coincidence that Mr. Kaspersky and I speak the same language? That I'm a Russian from elsewhere? It was a random panel. I was invited here I am. But it is not a coincidence because there was a shared educational space where science and technology was emphasized and the culture of everything is possible. The educational space that we came from was basically saying you tackle the problems that nobody tackled. You go in space, you build computers, you do whatever. You are the best. And this is an Africa Transform Summit. This is where that culture needs to be brought in, that you are the best. And as a continent, you can tackle the most challenging problems by embedding that educational system that brings that about. And it's literally the transformation of consciousness, the way people think. And it starts with the first grade. The moment you go to school, the science and technology and tackling of those future problems should be embedded in the curriculum. At the World Bank, and fortunately or unfortunately, but we are set up as a matrix structure. I represent digital development. We have colleagues who work on education. I can't speak on their behalf, but I work with them to embed cyber in education. And we often speak about certifications, training centers, cyber ranges. But if the kids are not coming from the primary schools with that culture of sort of scientific achievement, it's very hard to bring that awareness and interest later in certification programs or postgraduate education. So I would say if I would rule the world, I would bring it to the schools right now, right away.
Thank you, Sandra. Now, there are a couple. Sorry. The viability of the IoT immunity, and how do you motivate your employees, and how do you ensure that you keep them so that they don't become the hackers, and also how do you train people, because in her view, cybersecurity engineers actually bring the issue, so they go on.
Yes. So first, we'll answer the question, how do we train people? Actually, we are working with many universities around the world, and we're looking for the talents, and we educate them, we train them. And speaking about my engineers in the company, so there are two categories of engineers. There are software engineers, they're mostly Russian, and they are in Moscow, St. Petersburg, Novosibirsk, Vladivostok. And they are cybersecurity experts. So the people which analyze the most complicated stuff, when I was speaking about security of malware, the target APTs, and this team of experts, they are very, very international. So there are people from Latin America, United States, European countries, Russia, Dubai, Japan, Seoul, Beijing, Melbourne. There are 40 of them. So we're looking for these people on the market. So we're looking for the best experts to join our team and to observe the situation in different countries, to collect the information, and then share the information with the countries we're in, or the regions. So most probably we'll need a person here as well to support not just Rwanda, but also the region on the high level of cybersecurity. So how do we, the second question, well, answered third one, now second one. How do we motivate our employees, and what we do, how we guarantee that they don't go to the wrong side? Actually, it's an HR question, so we are not employing people which we are not sure in. Let me explain in such a way. So there is a difference, the good and bad guys. Well, actually, there is not. There is the gray zone in the middle. So I explain it in such a way. So the good people, if they see the wallet or mobile phone on somewhere, they take and say, who's that? It's the first category. Second category, if they see the wallet somewhere on the floor, so they take it and put it in the pocket. And the third category, see the wallet in your pocket, and they take it out. So the third one, they're criminals. The first one, they're good guys. We employ good guys. And so in this gray zone, we don't take the gray zone as well. So there never, we have a longer history of the company. They never had any case when, we don't know any case when our employees, they go to the criminal. And we don't employ criminals. We don't employ people with criminal past at all. Zero. And the first question. So actually we have, for IoT immunity, we have SDK, we have all these models, trainings, and we have, there are companies which develop the devices based on our immunity system. So it's on the market. Now it's in Russia, because we just started to provide it to build these systems. So we have a network routers with a Russian company which developed the network equipment, small Cisco, very small Cisco. So they do it based on our platform. There is CCTV cameras based on immunity system. This is a prototype of the smart district in Moscow. So one of the Moscow districts, they made the big data system. So they monitor all the sensors, so the water consumption, power consumption, and all that, transportation, all that. So all the sensors, they made our secure operating system. So we have it.
Yeah, Mr. Kafan, want to say something?
Yes, I'd like to take the opportunity in this panel to actually quickly raise awareness of, based on the question of my friend from Mali. It's a good point that he raised regarding education. African countries need to know that the issues that we actually have to tackle here in cybersecurity, we need to actually build the capacity to actually train our people to actually have the necessary skills. I mean, we're talking about something we're talking about national security matters here. Cybersecurity is not just a matter of computers or attacks and things. It's a national security matter. And we are raising awareness on the state level to make sure they understand that we have to invest heavily in education, to have the right people to actually defend our networks, to understand actually this technology that's going on. Because we're talking, I mean, just in Africa, we're talking 0.3% of the GDP. We're talking around an average of $4 billion that we're losing every year to cybercrime. How many schools, hospitals, and things like that we can actually build with this money? We're losing a lot of money in it. So we need to invest heavily in education to actually have the right, these people, the right people to actually defend our network. We're living in a world where 1 million people a day are victims of cybercrime. We cannot just sit and not invest in this industry.
Thank you. The final 2 questions, and then we wrap up. Oh my goodness. So how are we going to go about it? Because we are running out of time. We only have about 8 minutes left. And I'll give the gentleman here. Here, I'm going to have to become a dictator this time. And this young man here. So in the interest of time, let's, yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Kofi Ochiri. I'm from Ghana. I'm the CTO for NITA, the National Information Technology Agency. My question was to do with your thoughts on open source platforms as compared to the enterprise platforms out there and the commercial ones out there, because I see most people or most countries would predominantly go for the open source because of financial issues and how you stay in it moving forward, because you may buy the commercial product and the next month or the next year, when it comes to renewals, it becomes a problem. But you need to make sure that you have something that is running, because we tech people, we want things to run. What's your thoughts on it? That's my question.
So this is a typical question, so I have the answer already ready for this. I'm from the cybersecurity point of view, the open source is good and bad at the same time, because they are not just good guys, they are watching the source code. So they could be the bad guys and to find some vulnerabilities and some breaches in the code, and they will use it. And actually it's not it's not a scenario, it's reality. So it happens from time to time. And speaking about my company, we are in cybersecurity. If we make the open source project, the very first people will be cyber criminals to inspect our source code. So with the cybersecurity, we can't share source code with everyone. But we have a expertise center, and it's open for their trusted and respected states and enterprises.
Thank you. And I'm sure we'll ask Alex to also comment on that open source versus enterprise. Yes.
All right, thank you. My name is Ruti. My question is, what does the future look like for Kaspersky, but also for anyone on the panel? But also I know that probably you guys are, thinking on increasing the blueprint on the continent. As the workforce is going to be the biggest in the near future. What kind of skills are you looking for?
Okay, maybe let's ask Alex to comment on the first question of the open source versus enterprise.
Okay, one thing which is important for Africa, for example, especially as you want to play an active role in this so-called fourth industrial revolution or the digital transformation, is you have to move from just being consumers of technology to also actively participate in developing them. Again, as I myself am a computer scientist, I know that if you have your source code out there and there are some weaknesses in it, it is more dangerous to have it out there than to compile it and have a binary which nobody can read. But we have to look at the types of systems that we are talking about. There are some systems which are there to protect other systems. Those systems, you cannot just in security put everything on the table, because they're good and they're bad people. But I make a distinction between on the use of the application, what you want to use it for. If you trust a security company, you don't necessarily have to see their code, because if you see their code, somebody else is going to also be able to see that code. And if at all there's any vulnerability in it, then you become a pro. So it's a very careful balancing act between where you go between proprietary, black box solutions and open source. But I would encourage that Africans look at how to develop systems which are based on open source, share the responsibility, share the experiences, but know that you need a lot of experience to be able to develop security solutions which would protect these other systems that you are putting in place. So there has to be a distinction between the two types of applications.
Thank you, Alex. Amir, maybe you want to take on the question the young man asked. What is the future of Kaspersky, especially on the African continent, and what sort of skills are you looking for?
So Kaspersky have very good products, but products are cannot give you protection 100%. So it comes down to people again. Okay, so when we talk about the basic of cybersecurity, we're talking about people. So people, the first thing is awareness. We need all the employees in the company to be aware about cybersecurity. Whatever you invest in products, millions of dollars, and you've got one employee who click on the wrong, you're done, okay? And basically, a product is not for protection. It will not give you 100% protection. So the new buzzword in security is threat intelligence, IR, okay? Product, you can put it, it will give you protection, but what will happen if you are attacked? What are you going to do about it? So what we are looking for, the skill of the people, skilled people, in order to secure environment. What I'm talking about, like if your idea of having a product to stop the attack, this is not the new trend of cybersecurity. The new trend of cybersecurity is threat hunting. I want to let the attack go inside, not to stop it. Okay, so I need skilled people to follow the attack, to see what it's trying to do, and have all the confidence to stop it. So these are the skilled people we're looking for right now, not to run products, okay? Yes. Thank you very much.
And now, I want to give a chance to the gentleman at the back there and Tom, because we have 2 minutes, but just 30 seconds to ask a question, and then 30 seconds.
Merci. Je vais plutôt m'exprimer en français. Je viens du Bénin. Et parlant de la sécurité, je suis Norberto de Souza et je travaille pour le gouvernement du Bénin. Et j'ai juste un apport. Parlant de la sécurité, je pense que le maillon le plus faible, c'est plutôt les humains. Et c'est plus la sensibilisation. On a beau investir dans la sécurité, mais sans la sensibilisation, ça, rien ne pourra aboutir. Kaspersky peut beau être fort, mais sans la sensibilisation des humains, des pratiquants, Kaspersky ne pourra pas réellement assurer la sécurité. Merci.
So I'll ask my brother Alex to translate that.
Okay, he's talking about raising awareness. He says the weakest link in security is human beings. And how do we make sure that this weakest link, is taken into account? Because even if you buy the secure products, if people are not aware of how to use them or the policies, then you still are not secure. So how do we raise awareness amongst people in cybersecurity? That's the essence of the question.
Very good. I wanted to test my French. Now I have confirmed it. That's very good. Yes, Tom.
Thank you so much. My name is Tom. I'm ICT Director for Ministry of Justice. Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for a good presentation. My question goes to Mr. Kasper. We have been talking about...
So now we have versions of Kaspersky. Kaspersky.
Yeah, well, we have been talking about government having their own products. For example, their data centers, and even when we talk of security, we are talking about the ownership and the privacy. But now, what can you advise? I know you are doing business, but for example, if the government wants to do its own antivirus, what can you advise to that government? Thank you so much.
We can provide our OEM solution, so it's components and SDK, how to build the system from the company. So it's just like you assemble your own products from our components, that's it. And we do it for for 20 years already with private companies, with some governments. So we're very ready for that. Yes,
Thank you.
Yes, so yes, we do it.
All right.
If you want to have their own, even the enterprise, if some enterprise want to make their own enterprise endpoint security or network security, you can build it partly yourself and license the rest of that. You can license from us. And so we have the OEM department, we have the SDK, all the documentation and trainings to help you to do that. No problem.
I hate to be the one to end this very good and interesting presentation, but just one round of final wrap-up points from each and every panelist. We'll start with Sandra.
Okay, I'll do my wrap-up answering to one of the questions, what the future holds. We, humanity, have a very interesting capability. We create most beautiful things, and we make a mess of them. We've done it with explosives, we've done it with nuclear power, now we're doing it with the cyberspace. We tend to think that we compete with each other. When we compete with the environment, with the sun, with the finality of our planet. And it is when we start realizing that and creating tools and shared cyberspace of knowledge that is not threatened, where we can create that knowledge and tools and the platforms from where we can fight those real enemies of ours and not each other. That's when we're going to succeed. And it starts with each one of us individually, goes to the nation, goes to the region, and then to the world. So congratulations to all of you to coming to this Africa region event and starting building that understanding that eventually is global. All of us as humanity, not being here cyber hackers, cyber defenders, this country, this nation, that race, as a humanity who really facing very, very serious problems today. Thank you.
Mr. Kafana?
So as far as I'm concerned, I will basically say that we need to continue to raise awareness, like I say, on national level regarding this matter. We need to build mechanisms for better information sharing. That's another good, it's very important for us to do that. Make sure that we have the mechanism in place so that people, companies and governments work together in good collaboration to actually know, so that we have a very, very good idea of what's going on the cyber environment. And above all, I will come back again to it, we need to build skills in Africa to actually tackle our own cybersecurity problems. We need to invest heavily in education so that we actually have a strong cybersecurity industry in Africa in order for us to actually be up to the...
Thank you. Amil?
Yeah, so we were talking how people are important, professionals in cybersecurity are important, but it's a problem not only in Africa, it's a problem all over the world. Like, for example, I've heard a presentation from an American consultant 1 month ago, and he said currently there is 6 million jobs open for cybersecurity, 6 million, and we are not able to. So what are we going to do about it? Yeah, we need, but so Kaspersky is helping on this domain, and we are working with different universities on educational program that we have created with different partners. And
yes, and we see there are very big opportunities here in Africa. You're speaking about transformation of Africa. There are very